I'm Kevin O'Hara for Alcohol Mastery. Today I wanted to talk about the question somebody put up on YouTube that they were asking whether I was brave to do it because of my boss. You know, if my boss finding out about me quitting drinking or being an alcoholic, I think was the term. So the question is, are you afraid of your boss finding out about your quitting drinking? And I guess it can, equate over to neighbours or school teachers was a big one for me. For me that would have been the ultimate debasement. I just didn't want them to find out about my drinking, but a lot of the time when my son was going to school, we drank in a local small village in Ireland, so everybody knew your business, so it was very difficult to hide stuff like that. But anyway, that's the question. I think the bigger issue is the pot calling the kettle black. I was recently interviewed by a guy for some work, a big writing contract that I didn't get, but a guy from Israel, and during the process I sort of showed him some of the better pieces of work I'd done for other people, for other clients, and I also pointed him to Alcohol Mastery and said, well, this is the current project I'm working on, this is what I'm sort of focusing most of my time on now. And he came back to me, and basically one of the first questions he asked was, did I have a problem with drinking? So I asked him, had he looked at the website? He said he had, and I said, well, I haven't had a drink in over a year. It's been 13 months since I've had a drink, so where's the problem? And he said, well, is there a danger of you going back on alcohol? I said, no, look, once I stopped drinking, I stopped having a problem altogether. And trying to explain that to somebody in the space of 5 minutes without seeming defensive was almost impossible anyway. But basically, it's really what we've got to put up with, because you've got a public that believes that there are normal drinkers and responsible drinkers, and then there are irresponsible drinkers and abnormal drinkers or deviant drinkers. The basic presumption behind all this responsibility and normalcy is bollocks. I've heard the arguments time and time again about alcohol has been around for thousands of years, it's something that we've done for thousands of years. But that argument is completely flawed, because opium has been around for thousands of years as well. And people have been using opium for thousands of years, but you don't hear people today saying, well, there are normal opium users, or there are normal heroin users, which is a derivative of opium. You don't hear people saying there are responsible opium users. It's all deviant behavior. So that argument about going back in time and saying that this is a justification for drinking now, for taking a drug, is pure bollocks. This society is living in cloud cuckoo land, in la la land. I mean, it's justifying its own drug use by saying that this drug is culturally acceptable, and all these other drugs, and some of them which are far less harmful than alcohol, are not culturally acceptable, that they're deviant, that they're Neanderthalic if you take them, or worse again, that they're criminal. That you can take one drug, you can go out in the streets and you can cause fucking havoc. But if you take another drug, they'll lock you up in prison. I mean, there's been patients who are taking marijuana for multiple sclerosis, who've had the doors kicked in by the police, been arrested and taken to court, and either had severe big mad fines, or they've been put into prison. And I'm sure that the judges that are doing this feel embarrassed about it, but it's still happening. And this is the mad society that we're living in. Alcohol stopped becoming a problem in my life as soon as I stopped drinking it, as soon as I stopped lifting up the glass, putting it to my lips and taking sips out of it and putting it into my own body. And it would become a problem again if I ever started drinking, but I've no more intentions of ever starting to drink again. And I've no more intentions of ever putting a hypodermic needle full of heroin into my bloodstream, or rolling up a big fat joint and smoking it, or taking an LSD tablet. I mean, I don't take drugs now, you know. I used to take drugs to try and solve a multitude of different problems, and what a fuck up that was, you know. It just didn't do anything for my life. So the thought that I would change what I have now, the fitness levels that I have now, the happiness that I'm feeling now, the contentment, the clear brain, you know, all of that stuff, just to go back and take a drink and to take alcohol, you know, I think if I ever did that again, I probably wouldn't stop there, you know. I would go on to whatever, because I want to block out reality, because if I did that again, I'd be seriously doubting my own sanity. You know, there's really some things that I still want to sort out in my life. The only drug that I take now is coffee. I'm quite happy having my 2 small cups of Americano in the morning, and that's it. But even then, I'm going to experiment, maybe not this year, maybe next year, I don't know. Experiment with trying to stop it and seeing what the effect is on my body. The point is that without all the other shit going into my body, I can tell what's happening now. So if I take one thing out or start putting another thing in, I can tell the difference. You know, I can judge the difference, whereas before it was just all one big horrible feeling inside, you know, so you couldn't judge one bad thing from another. So, you know, alcohol is a weird drug, and although it's used by the majority of the population, they look down the noses at you if you drink too much. They say you're troubled, or you've got issues, or you were born with with the genetics to become an alcoholic, or you come from a troubled family, or they look at any excuse, but the responsibility is basically yours, and you're irresponsible for drinking too much alcohol. If you drink too little, then you're boring. If you don't drink at all, you're equated to the local village priest, you know, that you're, vicarage type, and you don't know how to enjoy your life. If you take another drug, then you're basically a deviant. You're a criminal, and you should be locked up, and locked up forever, you know, that there's something radically wrong with you. But I'd say these people also believe in the tooth fairy, and that the Easter Bunny is going to come to them over the next few years. When you quit taking a drug, especially a drug that you continue to see being used around you, that most of the population of the Western world use on a regular basis, when you quit taking that drug, you're free. You know, there's no doubt about it. You no longer have that problem. It's those people around you that have the problem, and you will see it everywhere. You know, you'll see that people are addicted to it. Even the ones that deny this to their last breath, you can see it. You know, so getting back to the question of, are you afraid that your boss will find out that you quit drinking? I mean, it's if your work wasn't suffering beforehand, then, you know, how is it going to suffer afterwards? How is it going to be worse? You know, you're quitting doing something which used to be a problem. Now it's not. You used to be an alcoholic. Now you're not. You know, your boss should be delighted that your productivity is going to go up. You know, he's going to benefit from you no longer being subject to the pickling process of alcohol. So, yeah, I wouldn't be afraid. At the end of the day, you can't help what other people think. Unfortunately, you can't. You can try and persuade them, but with something like this, People have got their own thoughts, and when it comes down to alcoholism, and people have got sort of defense mechanisms that they're using to cover up their own drinking. You know, if you think about it, nobody says that they're taking a drug, they're drinking. You know, it's something that we do all the time. Nobody says that they're high when they go out and they drink from a bottle of wine, which is what they are. They say they're drunk or they're tipsy or whatever. At the end of the day, you also have to ask yourself, what's more important, your job or your health? You know, are you going to carry on drinking just so you can keep your job? If you have any questions at all, any comments, any success stories, I'd love to hear them. You can leave a comment down below or go over to the website, use the contact form, or send me an email to kevin@alcoholmastery.com. Until next time, I'm Kevin O'Hara for alcoholmastery.com. Onwards and upwards.